boys at home with us. I'm a teacher, mom. I always like to say mom first. I always still consider myself that, and a very important role.
Yeah.
And yeah, teacher, charity person, started a non-profit or a global organization, sending used books. I was just talking to Claire earlier about that, storybooks to South Africa, when as Claire spoke about paper that they recycle. Got very excited because I could see lots of storybooks going there, but we like to intercept and send a lot of the storybooks away to African countries. So
great.
That's where we are.
Welcome, Salvio, to the platform. Okay, the next person. Kate, do you want to very briefly, one sentence, who are you?
Yeah, okay, one sentence. All right.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kate, and I've been on the sofa for a while now, so I'm not a new guest, so I'll give chance to other new guests to speak. So yeah.
Welcome, Kate.
Yes.
And Claire, please.
Yes, so I was explaining earlier that I'm the Waste and Environment Coordinator at Kemsley Mill, which is a part of the Dear Smith Paper Group. And we make paper that's made into packaging using recycled fibres.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Okay, and we have Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hiya, I'm Joe. I am a student
Hi,
at
Joe.
Christchurch.
Hi, Joe.
I volunteer for Diversity House.
So what do you do? Sorry.
I volunteer at Diversity House with Christine.
Right. Yes.
Great. You're welcome.
And she's also she's in University Canterbury Christchurch University. Joe, you missed that.
Oh,
Nice.
sorry.
Nice to
I'm glad
meet
you know.
Hi.
Thank you.
Femi, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Olufemi Olukoya. You can call me Femi. I live in Sittingbourne, in Highway, Sittingbourne. I'm a software vendor, so I'm happy to join this forum. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Femi, it's nice to
Nice
have
to
a
meet
gentleman with us today.
He's
Thank
outnumbered.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that brings us to my co-host today, Gloria. Could you kindly introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Firstly, it's how lovely to see everyone, and apologies for hiccups before. I'm Gloria. I'm a CEO founder of Cyber Engineers. It's a company that is into cybersecurity training and consultancy for small businesses, as well as being a local councillor for Medway Council, so an elected member of my local council. Yeah, I'm a mother, grandmother, and yeah, everything.
Yeah. Lovely.
It's nice to have you on this sofa again, Gloria.
Pleasure.
Great. So that leaves me to introduce myself, my humble self. I'm Christine Locke, and I'm the CEO and the founder of Diversity House, a charity that was founded in 2007 to address social inequalities of all kinds. Hence the name Diversity, because we want to promote community integration, inclusion, and cohesion. We're just talking today on this very, very current and timely subject, which is women empowerment post-COVID-19. How would we encourage and accelerate social transformation for women and girls? And I think this came about because I attended the 20th anniversary United Nations Global Compact Leaders Summit and in New York. And that's I attended digitally. I wasn't there. Yes, you see, that's, I'm sad now. The idea was, I was meant to be there last weekend and to come back this Sunday in New York, but because of the COVID, the United Nations decided to do this global summit to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the leaders, global leaders, in order to, look at the Sustainable Development Goals. Because we were all gearing to be there live at the UN Assembly. So they decided that they have to do it via a platform called Hopkins. And so within that platform, 3,030 of us from 180 nations attended the 2 days summit, which was on the 15th and the 16th of June, Monday and Tuesday. And after that, I also attended the UN Economic Transformation meeting. That was on Wednesday also, all day. And the key things and the key takeaway from all these international conferences were, amongst other of this, the other Sustainable Development Goals, the key issue was, how do we build for better? How do we help women to get over COVID? How will life look for women and girls post-COVID-19? And so we are all sent away as leaders in our various communities and countries to go and put heads together, to ask questions, and to lobby and campaign for change for women and girls. And as Gloria now starts showing the slides, we will just set the context why we want to do this. We've introduced ourselves and all that, which is very good. The last time we didn't do much. Last time, Kate, we were doing just networking and just socializing. So, yes. Gloria, if you look at the next slide, please. So, why is it very pertinent that we should be talking about women and girls at this particular time? Gloria, please go to that slide, please. So, evidence shows, globally actually, the data that's been collected all over has been showing that women are, harder hit by COVID, and that they will also be harder hit by the post-coronavirus economic crisis that will happen. So, and this is one of the things that the European Parliament said in April. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So this has been, been sounded and, everywhere, that women are going to actually bear the brunt of the COVID pandemic. In fact, economically and all in all ramifications, that women were going to bear the brunt of it all. And so it's down to us to start thinking, what can we do to accelerate the transformation for women? What can we do to promote gender equality in a world already that some genders are disadvantaged? So add to this pandemic, what do you think will happen to these very disadvantaged and left behind groups? So that's why it's imperative that we are having this conversation this afternoon. So, could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, let's look at this context, actually. This was, one of the things that were said by Forbes women in April, and everybody since then it's been echoed all over. And we've seen that the European Parliament even mentioned it, and the World Health Organization has been mentioning it, and everybody. He said women make up 91%. Look at how the COVID has impacted on women. Women are on the forefront of fighting the COVID. So if women are in the forefront fighting COVID, what do you think will happen to them at the end of it, when we get out of this? What do you think will happen? 91% of nurses globally are women.
Yeah.
74% of healthcare workers, either in domiciliary cares, in residential homes, and other supported living accommodations, they are women. Almost approximately 62% of pharmaceutical professionals are women. And then what happens? You look at all these professionals that we're saying, forget the other ones that are into what we call the four C's. The four C sector, which is caring, cashiering, cleaning, and all that. Forget all about that. Just concentrate on this percentage that we've given. Most of these people are, partners, they're wives, they're mothers, they're sisters, they're neighbors, and they're looking after people. So they must have children or other siblings that are taken care of. And within the lockdown, they've got to be now teachers. They've got to be teachers. They've got to be entertainers of children and all that. And so they're not only working in the industries where they should be working, they're also working at home. So what do you think is going to happen? So it's really imperative that in every situation, difficult situations that you have, women are always found in the center of it all. So let's, Gloria, go to the next slide, please. And so we're given this. So we have this chart now of, the majority, you're talking about care workers, for instance, people that are into the caring industries, and look at them by sex and you see that, the countries, if you look at women are higher all over the world, and you see the percentage or the chart for men and the women, and you could find that all over the globe, women are actually at the hem of it all. Is the women that are holding the society together. And if they were in the ones that are holding society together, what will happen when we go back to the new normal, as we are gradually now, getting back to the new normal? What do you think will happen? So, Gloria, the next one, because
just before we go on, obviously, it's easy for us to talk about, statistics and things like this without having to really process what we're talking about, especially with there being just one man amongst us. The tendency for us to just begin to think that this is all to do with women. I think it's also, when you look at it critically, we're talking about women, yes, but it's to do with society, family, society as a whole.
Yes.
Because the empowerment of a woman facilitates the growth and development of families and communities and the world as a whole. So we're looking at how we can take everybody along with us as we emerge from this pandemic. And if, the majority of our health workers, even looking at the slide in front of us, Estonia is at Spain, right? It's almost like 100%, Estonia is not Spain, 100% of their care workers are female.
Yes.
So how can we strengthen families? How can we strengthen communities? The answer is what we're discussing here. Let's give women the tools to support their homes, and eventually supporting the community as a whole. So this is what we're looking at today. So let's not just focus our mind, or we're thinking about just girls. We're thinking about women. We're thinking about our life post
society, because man is very much there. Yeah.
Okay, that's good, Gloria. That's wonderful. We're going to get to that discussion, but it's very good that you're trying to set the context also. Thank you very much. Then I will just, we've been talking in the apps, when we talk about the big bad word, nobody will really identify with it. So I wanted us to bring this back to Kent, where we know. Let's just unemployment to make it a bit realistic to us. Because if we are talking about Estonia, we are talking about Spain and Cambodia and all that is just like faraway places.
Yeah.
So if we use unemployment, for instance, in Kent, where we live, to see exactly how this COVID has affected not just women now or girls, like we're saying. Just let's look at the context of people living in Swell and how the COVID has affected their economic life. So this statistics saying to us, this is the statistics for May 20th, 2020 for unemployment. So we're saying that since the COVID, unemployment rate has increased, meaning that unemployment benefits also has climbed, has climbed up also. So you find that 60,510 people in Kent, this is, we didn't include Medway, in Kent, are now in receipt of benefits, unemployment benefits. I want to also talk about, let's look at, because we are in Swell here. And we know that Swell is the second most disadvantaged district in the whole of Kent. So after Thanet. So if you look at Thanet here, which we follow, Thanet has the highest unemployment rate of 10.
That's where I am.
That's where you are from, Selden. Okay? Yeah. And then if you also, and you see how it affects people that are rich, and compare that to Seven Oaks, which is, Seven Oaks that well off. You find that in Seven Oaks, you have only 4.4% of benefits, you see, of people on unemployment benefits. Then younger people also, because we need to look at this, this world that we're going to leave behind. What are we going to be leaving behind for young people? Look at how the unemployment also is affecting young people, 18 years to 24 years. Young people that are supposed to be earning or in school or in employment that are on benefits. 9.5% of all those that are 18 to 24 years in Kent are in receipt of unemployment benefits. That's actually, so, that's horrible. And then we look at Thanet again, have the highest percentage in the whole of Southeast of young people that are in unemployment benefits. So Glory, if we go to the next slide, please. Ahead. So I'm looking at now Kent unemployment also by gender. If you see that male, those men that are unemployed, has the percentage increased swiftly since the COVID. In men, you find that 36,685, which is 7.8% of those unemployed are men. So if they are unemployed, that the breadwinners, most of them, of their families, that will impact on women, the girls, and the whole family, and the female also following quickly, that 23,820, making up for the 5% of women in unemployed that are unemployed. I remember that most of these women are in those jobs that are not constant, those jobs that are maybe 0 hours, part-time jobs, or the jobs that can easily, they just send people away, contract job and part-time jobs. Remember that retail, most of them are in retail businesses, selling in shops and all that, and in charity works. And it's not as if they are very, very, huge earners of money. Then you find that in Swell, it's important for me to talk about, draw out Swell. Swell is the highest, the second highest in the whole of Kent, after Thanet. So the figure is so poor, appalling. So 3,910, which is 8.7% of men unemployed, and 5.5% of the women are unemployed. So, so this we can we can scale through, we can pass through it because it's really not, like I actually said, if you look at Fanet has the highest number, which is quickly followed by Swell. So when it comes to unemployment, and similar with their women, the female also in those two districts are also disproportionately affected also. Gloria, go to the next slide. The next slide now is telling us about age. And so if you look at the different age range, 18 to 24, 25 to 49, and all that, it's the similar story also, that the two, that Fanet and Swell also have, if you look at Fanet here, 1,690 of 18 to 24 are unemployed, and Swell 1,415 unemployed. Second, so they're always together. Swell and Fanet and Swell. So they're very, very, highly disadvantaged, and across the whole age range, actually. And if you look at, we have Medway here. Medway is just 2,475. Wow.
That is high.
Eh?
That's high.
It's not high.
Yeah,
Well, it's higher than Fanet.
It's high for what it is, yes.
So we know that we have young people who are unemployed. We have higher rates of unemployment amongst our young people.
But you look at Kent. In Kent is higher. Kent is 11,830 of people of that age range. Could you imagine 18 to 24?
It's a huge problem. Kent and Medway as a whole, it's a huge, huge problem. And it's one that we all need to work towards to address, really.
Exactly, exactly. So if we go up, because we're going very soon, we'll get to our discussion. So we've set the context, we looked at the global context, and we drew it down to where we live, Kent and Medway. And so the discussion now, bearing in mind what Gloria said, and also, with due respect to the gentleman that we have, we're not just being discriminatory or exclusive. We, because according to what we say in the UN, UN for women, UN women, we normally say if you support one woman in your community, you are supporting 10 people actually. That one person, one woman will affect and impact on 10 other women, people. So that's why it's important. That's why we are saying that. So with due respect to you, Femi, we're not excluding men. Men are also very important. But already we have said that, and we are not saying it, the statistics says it's evidence-based, that women that make more than 51% of the whole population of the whole world, that we find ourselves disadvantaged in strategic places like economics, social, political leadership in all aspects. We've been talking about that, talking about gender pay gaps and how to address it. So that's why it's important that we're having this discussion. And we have the men, we have to help us to champion this also. And that's why we welcome you, Femi, as the man that will help us to champion this issue as we go forward in the new phase that we're in. So the challenge now that we need to look at, one of it is women's caring role outside the home. We need to, how does it affect them? Women caring role at home, how does it affect them? Women's employment and COVID, women employees and risk to their job. Women self-employed. So there's somebody, microphone is making noise there. The women confinement and violence, social norms and gender violence. Women capacity building, women and girls, the education. How will we look at this education that is hampered? So I'm going to now throw this floor open, or the sofa open, for everybody to now start, let's talk, let's debate, let's look for a way forward. The floor is open now for us to discuss.
The funny part that, sorry, Christine, the one with gender violence, because just last night I was listening to the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, talk about gender violence. And he really elaborated on the way women are being treated. And during lockdown, there's also been cases of rape. And it was shocking to hear that even 2 women in their 80s were raped by young men. And here in this country, domestic violence is really shot up now during lockdown. So something is going on with the males as well. And it's now with our empowering women is how they're going to help their partners if they want to stay in the relationship. Either they opt out or they help their partners and help themselves in the way forward. Because I think it's not just about getting jobs and so on. It's about how, for their peace of mind, for them to be more effective in their workforce and day to day with their children. Because if it doesn't get fixed, if the mom doesn't sort her mindset and her state of her well-being, we're going to get the next generation that's going to be the same thing is going to happen. We're going to have a cycle of that gender violence again, because it's what that child is seeing. And if we don't help that situation and put a stop to it, so it's just the way it is. Gender violence stands out here, and it's a thing that we've got to address. And where do we start then?
So what do you suggest? Because we there, yes, we know that happens. What do you suggest? What kind of?
So we know that there's big pressure on jobs and the fact that there's no work, but we all should be grateful being in the UK and what has happened so far with, say, like the furlough schemes, and employees were given right from the outset, they were said nobody should lose their job. However, we know now with many workers going back, that's not the situation, because many are losing their jobs as well. We're going to have to see if somebody walks into work and they are told that they are made redundant or they are retrenched now, how you deal with that situation. So how do you, the quicker you can bounce back from knowing that you've just lost your job, will impact on the household as well. Worst case scenario, because your children are watching you. Now, how you deal with these setbacks in life is crucial. It happens. It's something that pandemic, we cannot blame ourselves. We cannot blame even the employer. We just cannot. It's happened. We cannot take the blame for the pandemic, can we? And I get a bit disappointed when a mom that's just delivered a baby during lockdown, and I've heard it said on Sky News when, this mom with a lockdown baby and she's having the guilt. Pardon me, we really should tell that mom, help that mom to feel gratitude. How many moms can't have that baby to start off with?
Okay, thank you very much. Let's call Femi. What do you think? What action can be taken to address this domestic violence? Do you have any contribution to that?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, the issue of domestic violence cannot be dealt with in isolation.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to consider, a whole lot of things, a number of things, from the, and it starts from education, number one, education, educating the people, both men and women. There has to be cultural, for example, the culture of the land, for example, in the UK, there are certain things that, people do, maybe some people that have migrated from other parts of the world, that, for instance, they don't see smacking or spanking as violence, for example. So there has to be cultural reorientation,
Yeah.
There has to be, observation, certain groups has to, even from individual homes, reorientation, and then followed by, decisions that will be actioned. So education, reorientation of cultural, either upbringing or cultural baggage, or that is transported from wherever people have migrated from, and imbibing in the culture of the land. And of course, there has to be, I think some of the domestic violence may be due to, stress within family due to financial situations, for example. So government's policies has to be in place to encourage maybe small businesses to, create job opportunities for all, not just for women, because we've got to consider not being
Yeah.
everything is now, we're talking about equality. So non-discriminatory government policies but focus has to be from the grass, from small businesses within the so because when there are jobs, when family has, enough food on their table, that would minimize, violence, possibly. And of course, various religious group as well has to be encouraged to educate there, because people are probably suffering in mosques, in churches, and so many places, and they will be smiling on the outside, but when they get home, they probably get into a lot of, domestic violence and all. So community leaders, church leaders, faith groups have to be encouraged to teach their congregants, congregations about, domestic violence, and it's not be swept under the carpet. And also, punishment has to be, for people that have suffered domestic violence, they've got to be seen to receive justice, and which is fair and which is thorough, so that this would curtail, or when people are aware that there's a huge repercussion to their behavior, so they would then have to think twice. So it's all encompassing, from the justice system to benefit system to housing to just creating an enabled environment. When we live in an enabled environment whereby the basics of life, basic essentials of life that we are grateful to God that we have in this country, but still not enough, it's still not common enough. If all those essentials are well taken care of, and proper education from schools, starting from schools, when somebody's bullying in school and they don't get, thoroughly dealt with, they grow up to become bullies, so it starts from education, and then ensuring that we have an enabled environment, ensuring that, small businesses are encouraged with tax, and policies that would encourage them to create jobs, government benefits to ensure that, everyone is well looked after. So I think, I'll stop there for now.
Great. That's very, very good. Thank you, Femi. Thank you. It's good to have a man with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else, who wants to contribute on this subject, this particular topic again?
I'd like to, if I may. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you. I think there's an issue that we're seeing a lot during lockdown with domestic violence being normalized on both parts, and so almost accepting the fact that it's happening and saying, okay, it's because people are stressed and in a confined environment, but that implies that it wouldn't be there otherwise. And so there should have been initially, in my opinion, like a bigger emphasis and consideration for people who would be living in these households with domestic abuse in at present. But the main areas I say to target are, as we said, education. That is imperative, you know, because a lot of people, as we've mentioned, have grown up in households where they've seen these things happen and there's no issue with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But secondly, we should draw attention to providing people who are in these situations with the resources to almost get out of them, because a lot of people that I know who are in domestic abuse situations, they are in there because they're relying on their partners for financial reasons, for stability in whatever way, and it's not that they are accepting it, it's more that they have no way to move forward from it. And with that comes the mental pressure of they're in this situation for months, and once they're out of it, they have the ingrained ideals that come from it, and know they feel as though they aren't, you know, competent enough to go and get work elsewhere, and they fall into the repetitive cycle without escape. So a lot of that would come from empowerment, and again, further education, more programs implemented to give people springboards to leave the situation more readily and move forward.
Great. Thank you, Joe. That's really lovely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so any other person have something to say about that, or do you want to move on to the next?
Can I just quickly add something? I'm sorry to, you know, I just thought that, you know, the domestic violence is not only physical violence. Okay? People can suffer, you know, huge emotional abuse,
100%.
and that lingers on for years, and they're not speaking out. So one of the solutions is, nothing is to have confidence, trustworthy people that you can talk to freely, you know, to offload, you know, such, you know, things if it's happening to you or somebody you know. So I think one of the solutions could be people should be encouraged to speak out. So I just thought I should say that.
Okay, that's great.
So can I just add something there, Christine? So I didn't get the gentleman's name. So, sorry. Right, Femi. Yes, Femi. When Femi spoke about the schools need to do more, and so that we can help the bully, you know, because that's really spot on. But I think we can go even before that to the I think it's the home environment as well. We've got to look at the home environment as well, and basically start from day one. And the mindset of the mom, the dad, and now the baby, and what's going to happen then, how issues are being dealt with. Say now, like unemployment, or the relationship is no more, and how we're going to deal, you know, the choices we make, and the self-talk. And I always like to go back to, from the time we get out of bed, what are we doing? You know, have we made our bed? And it's just basic character development. And that child growing up in a home where we can provide a structure, a routine, and all that. And with their, including their schoolwork. Schoolwork is not everything, but it's the moral values and the relationships and the care for each other in the family. So if mom can show that to dad, or dad can show that to mom, and then that's what the little ones, but the little one needs to be heard. One is crying out to be heard, crying out to be listened to. We're just gonna have to do that. And we're gonna have to help parents in that. I think parenting is key. And then because that child is soon 20-year cycle, even lesser, maybe even as a 16-year-old, potentially that child now at 16 could become a parent.
Yeah. It's also important to support that child that is facing domestic abuse at home.
Yes.
Before they become bullies. So the schools have to put things in place for counseling and emotional support, because a child going through or experiencing domestic violence or domestic abuse at home, okay, is traumatized.
Yeah.
In fact, that in itself is domestic abuse against the child.
Yes, the
So,
whole team.
you know, so before we start talking about consequences for that child later for being a bully, we ought to be looking at how we can support that child, because I used to be a school teacher too. So you see the behaviors, they are angry and easily offended, not because they want to be, but because they're carrying a lot of emotional baggages from home. So
It's a defense.
School will do well by putting things in place to support these kids. And as we move on in this discussion, I just want us to realize that we're not talking about help coming from the distant places. We're talking about even as individuals here being that help. Okay, so let's not forget that you know, you and I, we can actually do something, no matter how small. So when we're talking about empowering the woman and you know, what have you, we should be thinking, what can I do to support somebody? How can I make myself available for that woman to talk to? Now, because often domestic abuse is what is seen as a taboo, is shameful. Okay, so a lot of people don't come out. So how can I now make myself and my position approachable so that another woman can approach me, can come to me with their problems? That's very important. You know, a lot of all these women also don't like talking to authorities. They don't like going to, you know, the established places like social workers and what have you. Therefore, it comes down to us who are here, you know, those of us here right now, being the help, the support. So whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, okay, you must consider yourself part of the solution that we are going to be talking about here. It's important.
Great. Thank you very much, Gloria, because like you rightly said, whenever we're talking about providing intervention or prevention, we always think about somebody distant or some organization somewhere. We do not think about community development. So we need to think about whole system kind of support from the government to, you know, health, social, you know, social care, school, families themselves, and neighbors. So the whole, you know, a holistic system of support. So we also can you know, provide emotional support or information and guidance, or just holding hands and encouraging and rebuilding the confidence of such a person that is the victim of domestic violence. So thank you, Gloria, for hitting it right on the head there. So who else has something to say before
I was wondering whether we can form something here with us, like a group where we have set up a support system, or perhaps for women, or is there something where you guys are, say like here, well, we've got Oasis, but that's the formal structure. But is it, so if we know of somebody, let's say I know of somebody and she may not, so we draw from our own experience and strengths on how we will help a friend. But how would we, what are you thinking then, Gloria? How we could take it to another level where we can...
Okay, let me just say, Christina, are you recording this? You're not, are you?
Yeah, I'm recording because I've got to record this.
Yeah, but you're not currently, so don't forget to.
No, I'm recording. I need to stop it if you want to.
No, that's fine. The reason I'm talking about the recording, Christina and I, we've done a lot of discussions on domestic violence and the support available for anyone And let me just point out, domestic abuse is not just perpetrated against a woman or girls. Some men suffer from that also.
Yes.
So there's a lot on Diversity House right now. I think the whole month of May, we were discussing this matter.
Yes.
And so there's a lot. But what I was actually alluding to is the fact that we can, as individuals, where we are, be that network, be that help, be that change. You know, even by whistleblowing.
Yeah.
You know, if you hear anything in your community, can you, you know, just either knock on doors or call the police.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, you get what I mean? Because sometimes these women or these families don't want the authorities, but can you be that person? And where you work today, could you make, you know, could you make room for another woman to be supported? I know, Claire, for example, your organization during the International Women's Day celebration, one of the things that we discussed was the fact that, you know, you needed to get out more to recruit and support women, which, you know, I think it was something that you were already doing. Could that be expanded by, you know, perhaps you going back to that, you know, to your work to say, you know what, we were discussing this thing about COVID-19 and the impact. What can we do in addition to what we were doing before to support more women? You know, I got the information that COVID-19 brought about more women suffering, not just from unemployment, but from domestic abuse. What can we do? This is what I was trying to get at. You, okay, is it you again?
I'm Selvin.
Selvin, okay. You know, even as a school, what can we do? Can we, when we now go back to school, like now, can we start looking out for signs for the children that would have experienced domestic abuse during the lockdown?
Yeah, I'm sure when the signs come up that teachers, I know from my experience, when it comes up, teachers are pretty vigilant, but I also know from even friends whose children have not shown it at school. And they've gone through, in fact, there's a situation where the child took his life because, and I know that there was domestic abuse in the house, but the school didn't pick up what the child was going through.
So we'll need to be extra vigilant, because don't forget that this is not going to be the same way that we used to pick up things when we were not overwhelmed by circumstances. Now we're going into a different scenario altogether. We're coming out of lockdown. Femi, I'm going to direct this to you. You know, being a man, it also, please, excuse the stereotype, okay? We're now talking about women, and if we're talking about women, it means that the people who are committing these atrocities against women are men. So you as a man also, what can you do? Maybe begin to have, you know, these conversations with other men, especially, you know, within the culture that you come from. And also begin to talk to your girls, could be your sisters, your daughters, and anybody, your cousins, whatever, to, you know, empowering them to speak up, to find help. I think I like the word you, there was a comment you made, an enabled environment. Could you become an enabler within your environment as well? You know, because I know that a lot of women from your culture, my culture, for example, will hesitate to go out and seek help. So what I am actually calling on every one of us here today is, you know, really just to bring this thing down to individual level and say, what can I do to be that change for somebody else? I think that's my, that's where I'm coming from.
That's great, Gloria. That's really wonderful. Oh.
The other, I'm just curious, like with the environment with regard to Black Lives Matter and how our communities are handling that, because that's the other one that's now with the pandemic, and that's come up and that's brought a lot of issues out for a lot of our young men and even parents with children from mixed relationships.
Yeah, that would be, let's move on with this and we can talk about that at a later.
Yeah.
So we just talked about domestic violence. There are issues there that we've not talked about. Like, Gloria, if you kindly go back, we've not talked about employment post-COVID. How do we prepare these women to get back to work? Some of them may actually have lost their jobs. Businesses may start up and may not have money to get them back. Some of our women are also entrepreneurs. So being entrepreneurs themselves, what can we do to help these women? Are usually in the small to medium size of businesses. How could government, how could local authority, how could chambers of commerce, how could investors, provide financial support? Is there any credit? Are there access to credit for these small entrepreneur women businesses? So I want us to talk about it because employment is very important, or else these women will be at risk of poverty. Anybody has something to say?
I think for me, again, not wanting to dominate the conversation, but it's that thing about bringing it down to us who are here right now. Because the tendency for us to begin to address government and, the message gets lost somewhere is there. Therefore, what can we do? What can you and I do? What can we achieve together? So there's a need for signposting, and we all can do signposting. We can tell another woman where there is probably education happening. There is opportunity. There's an opportunity for them to improve or learn new skills. Okay, we can do that. I think so often we look for the big things to make a change when we can actually start from where we are, just where we are. And I think that's what is lacking. We need, I think, Christine, you were talking about community involvement. We need to start from really, really, really grassroots. I am tired of, obviously you must know, because being involved with the local council, I have these meetings and we talk at local government level, but I still want that conversation to whittle down to where the woman is.
Yeah.
The person sitting next to her is, I want that conversation, because if at local government level, listen, we have targets, sometimes, our target is 90%. If we can reach 90% of women, we can reach 95% of women. Or if we can reach 99% of women, very rarely. And the question we keep asking, what about the 1% who has not been reached? What about the 5% who have not been reached? Okay, so for that reason, it's just important for us to begin to think, okay, what do I know that I can share? Who do I see during my walk, my daily walk during this COVID lockdown? Who do I see that I think could benefit from an information of improving themselves that I have? Who can I signpost to Diversity House, for example? Because I know that Christine and Diversity House, they provide a lot of support for these people, but not many people know about those things.
Gloria, thank you very much. There's something you said that I must highlight here. You said opportunity to learn new skills. And you know that we've been talking about, you know, in women programs, most of the things that's been done is kind of soft skills that, you know, that are difficult to measure. You know, soft skills that are difficult to measure, things like aspiration, motivation, self-esteem, self-confidence, all sorts of things. We've not been able to actually look at some of the very hardcore measures, things like, and give them those capacity to learn new skills. For instance, say, women should learn how to build apps, women and girls. And so we signpost them to Femi, and you are there. So we're going to pick your brain now, Femi. So we ask women and girls learn how to build apps, you know, so that they can have very solid skills that they can, you know, use to gain employment or start up their own business. We could say women could start, you know, they go to school one day, the next day they go learn on-site construction or different kinds of things that, you know, they need to combine to, you know, to have the, you know, the edge when it comes to employment and economy, you know, making, getting income. So this brings, I'll come back to you, Gloria, but I need Femi. Femi, for instance, you are into this computer big, you know, big world. Tell us again, what do you think? How can women come into what you do?
Well, I think the starting point would be to inspire the mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a saying that for things to change, you as a person have to change.
Yeah.
So it starts from your mindset. So I think the starting point should be things like personal development trainings, where, you know, where you have, you know, maybe an open day where you have a public speaker, so, you know, so a motivator for, you know, people have to be motivated, you know, so the mind has to be inspired to want to welcome change. You know, change from, you know, change could be anything from what you're currently doing, either through career, relationships, name it. So the mind has to be inspired. That is the starting point. You've got to be, talent has to be instilled in you to have that self-confidence that, yeah, I want to, you know, have a renewed life. I want to have a new set of, you know, ambition, to create goals. If you don't have a goal, for example, you know, there's no way you can take a step forward. You've got to have, people have to be taught how to think of goals and objective, how to achieve goals. If you have one goal, then, you know, you've got something that you're working towards. So I think the starting point is have something like a personal development day, whereby we, you know, get people that are in that field to do, that know how to motivate, that know someone that suffers domestic violence, for example. Their mind has to be renewed in order to want to get into a relationship again, for example. Their mind has to be renewed. Someone that's suffered so many emotional abuse would have lost self-confidence. You know, they've got to be motivated to have belief in themselves that they can achieve again. So once that foundation is then laid, then the opportunities to then say, okay, now you can start thinking about career development, businesses, and so on and so forth. So I think the first thing is to deal with the mindset coming from, you know, that psychological place of mind, renewing of mind in a non-religious way. You know, there are so many people out there that know how to inspire people that would not, you know, sort of introduce any religion to you. They're so open, and then you can then, take steps. So that would be my advice, start from that perspective, from that point.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you, Femi, for your contribution. Anybody has anything to say before we move on to the educational aspect? With the COVID, children, both boys and girls, they've been shut down, they've been locked down at home. And if you come from a very disadvantaged home where you don't have laptops or things like that, or where the home is not conducive enough to study, for you to study, or where there's nobody that is, the parents aren't educated enough to understand the importance of education, and in order to push the children also to want to study, because the children themselves will think that this is holidays, so holiday, hey, sleep and play games and all that. And if the parents are also those kind of nonchalant that don't understand what the purpose of education, so these children will lag behind. So many children will be left behind in terms of education, in terms of their learning, boys and girls. But let's look at girls also, because why I'm hampering on girls is that we live in a place, especially here in Swell, and I know about other places. Let's look at Swell, whereby the level of education for women and girls is quite so low, and there's lack of aspiration actually, and the lack of skill is affecting many women and girls from getting jobs. For instance, I know that at the time that the regeneration in the town center was started, there was a plan, some jobs were ring-fenced for Swell people. But the fear again that we had in Swell is that ring-fencing this job for Swell people is not going to be feasible, because most of them don't have the skill to take up those jobs that we are ring-fenced. So now with the lockdown and school shutting for some time, and this would have affected the education of the young people. What suggestions do we have in order to help these children, to see how they can, regain the lost time? What suggestions do we have for schools, for the government, for us as parents, and society as a whole? Who wants to start?
I don't mind saying that from a teacher's perspective, that losing 3 months of education in the whole life of a child's education is really, really not something to be so stressed about, so concerned about. If ideally it was time, and a lot of families, on a positive note, a lot of families have embraced this time, and they adjusted into, at the beginning, there were, I know, seeing posts on Facebook, social media and so on, parents were stressing about getting the schoolwork done. But parents didn't have to take the place of a teacher. And the child, many children around the country, around the world, have adjusted to this type of education, online education. There is still a percentage, there's always going to be a percentage of children that won't do it. And sadly, there's also a percentage of parents that don't care as well. Now, I know that the Prime Minister spoke about the summer holiday. It's not going to happen. If that child hasn't done it for the last 3 months, they're not going to do it now in the summer. Yeah, so it's a good time to do more communication with the children, to bake with the children, to play with them, to read with them, and to get those life skills on board. For me, if I was in that opportunity with younger children, for instance, that's what I would have grabbed. The opportunity to just be and get the schoolwork done, do what teacher wants you to do, the academic stuff, but I think it starts like where the parent had to accept this is the situation. They found it hard, parents found it hard, but there's also a lot of them that then did adjust. And children I've heard of children saying they like this. They don't mind being in their room and doing their schoolwork. Not all children, we know that. So going back to school has given teachers an opportunity to see where some children are, but still they haven't seen everybody. My neighbor who has GCSE children, she teaches the GCSE level, she said it was shocking that 40% of the children only accessed and did the work. It was only 40% that came back. Their work was done. So that, those children that don't want to do it, they won't do it. They're not going to do it. And that's the sad part. But what are you saying then, Christine? That still there's a percentage.
No, let's leave somebody else give room for another person to give their take on this.
I can speak from the perspective of a parent because I have a 7-year-old daughter at home. So I've been working from home, fortunate to be able to do that, and also teaching.
Yeah.
So I mean, fortunately, the school have been setting work every week. It's been very focused on maths and English, so just basic things like times tables and so on. I'm quite fortunate really that Violet being in year 2, 7-year-old, that yes, her education is important, but she's not at a vital stage. She's not just about to take exams and so on. So my situation is better than a lot of other parents.
Yeah.
I think that there could have been more communication from the school, because it became apparent that some of the other parents didn't know that the school was setting work and that they should have been doing something with them. And that actually, 2 months in, and they were like, "What are you talking about on the WhatsApp group?" We're like, "Well, on the school page where you go on and you get the work." They didn't know what we were talking about. So, but I'm also very aware that I will never, this is time that I would never have had, and I'll never get it again. Yes. So there's been times when we haven't done that much schoolwork and we've just gone to the beach and looked for crabs and the other kind of, and the baking and the other, the life skills type things. It can't all just be about all of the academic stuff all of the time. I mean, certainly there have been occasions when it's been a bit stressful. I was really shocked actually to see the school report, the news report the other day, saying that 2 million children haven't done anything at all.
Wow.
And I think that perhaps there needs to be a bit more emphasis on if you don't have access to the technology, if you don't have a printer, there are other things, bite size. I've got so many videos, there's so much stuff on YouTube that could be accessed for a telly. I know that relies on some technology, but if you don't have that kind of technology, then just get out in the world and into nature, go to the beach, the woods, your local environment, and try to do learning from that kind of perspective rather than it just being on the academic side of things.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. So I know that Gloria is itching to add something as a teacher, and I mentioned something about technology, also apps. I know she's itching, very eager. Go on, Gloria, I'm not stopping you.
I think Claire actually highlighted something I was going to say, and that's being the fact that a lot of the children we're talking about, or families, are technology poor, okay? So they don't have access to the internet. They don't have access to virtual either. So how do you expect them to learn? So teachers set work virtually. So how do you expect the families to, in my company, for example, I've had to buy 3, considering that I deal with adult learners. I've had to buy 3 or get hold of 3 laptops for my learners.
Yeah.
Okay. So knowing fully well that if those learners did not have those laptops, there would have been no learning. Even then, it was a struggle for them to do so. So it's important for us to realize that not everyone has access to all this. And when people don't have access to what they should be doing, what happens is that they all stay confined within the home. Kids are bored, tensions high, and therefore they need, well, if somebody lashes out, domestic violence, goes on the increase.
Yeah.
However, again, in saying what I said before, do we who are here know where to signpost such a family? Because that's important. Do you know how to support a family that you realize these people, okay, they should be doing some schoolwork, homeschooling. Oh, I guess that because they don't have a computer or a laptop or something or internet at home, so they're always playing out. Do you know how to get in touch with the local government to report that? Because we need to start doing that. We all need to start participating, not so much in policing our neighborhood, but in being our brother's keeper. In being able to say, there's a councillor, a local councillor for this area. You know what? There's this family that I know that the kids don't have any means of schooling at home. And usually the local councillors, when consulted like that, if you want to be anonymous, you can do so. But when consulted like that, usually just reach out in some ways to support that family. Do we know how to signpost that family to some a place like Diversity House? I think I'm just bringing it home now to us. Because the problem with a lot of these things is there's just so many discussions going on, but who is doing it? Don't forget, there will be the 90% that won't have access to these things. But what about the 10% who don't have the access? What are we doing? As a company, for example, talking about women, I'm very, very proud to say that in my first year of starting my employment training in cybersecurity, we had about 40% women that came through that program. And, most of them, young women, most of them got good jobs. They programmers, and some got into schools doing IT solution support work. And so, it was really very impressive. And so it gets down, after all this being said, that we as individuals need to know where to signpost. Now, the program I was talking about with my company was a free program sponsored by the government. Now, for courses like that, okay, the learners needed to be referred. Would you be able to refer? Would you, when you see things like that, when you see free employment training, what do we do with those kind of, do we just turn a blind eyes to that? Or just think, I might know somebody that I could refer I refer to that program. So it's we just being a bit more proactive. We're going into the new normal. It cannot be just left for people like Diversity House or the councillors, or it's going to be a collective effort if we're going to see our women and girls doing better, and invariably our families doing better, and of course our society doing better. Everyone needs to get involved in doing that.
Thank you. Kate, I'll come to you later, but let me talk to Joe, because I want to know what Joe has been doing and other young people in the university or not yet in university. How is their academic work and academic life faring? And what can be done? Is Joe there?
Yes. So that's a really good question, because we were quite fortunate in that we only had about a month of online tuition. But I think it was a very stark change, and in the week leading up to it, it was, again, a really strange environment, because we had the facilities there, luckily, and at this point, the university library is still open, so people who didn't have the technology at home could still attend lectures, which was, you know, needed, because they're not always. Sorry, can you hear me? My connection's a bit iffy. Okay. Though I don't know, honestly. Hello, sorry. Really?
So did the university make any suggestion? Did they offer any support? For instance, people that don't have laptops, or students that are not even foreign students, and or students that may become homeless actually because so did they give any support?
I'm not sure, honestly. I didn't see any advertised. I didn't get any material offering that support, though. Yeah. I can imagine if it were more of a long term, there would be an expectation from the students to have that support in place, because obviously the library is closed at the minute, so that technology is out of reach. And they were, the whole thing just feels so surreal, and talking about it is hard, because we're not in the same position as the younger students, so people doing GCSEs, and likewise I'm not in the same position as people writing their dissertations. But it's unsettling, and not knowing where we're going and whether there is going to be, opportunities beyond education for, further education and for job prospects. It's scary,
So what level of education are you?
I have just finished my first year at university.
Right.
Yeah.
All the best.
So that's, see, for young people like Joe, and younger people again, like Joe mentioned, those that are about to sit their GCSE, and this has just happened. If they weren't preparing very well, it could really affect the outcome of the exams, the result that they will have. And so think about what this will happen, what will happen to their mental health, and their future prospects anyway, whether we like it or not. In the world today, you need education. Either it's formal education or vocational education, or whatever kind of learning, you need it to succeed in the world that we live today. So when we're talking about this, we also need to keep in mind the younger people and how the anxiety they'll be going through, and the teachers that are teaching them also not knowing exactly how to help each and every one of them, because like Sullivan said, some will be left behind. And it's left for us as community to start to identify, even doing the legwork to see who will be left behind. Do I have some old laptops I need to give to somebody? Is there other things I could do? Are there books that I could send to them? Could I do some recording and just send it to them if their parents can't read or write? Because whether you like it or not, even though we live in the global south, in a developed country, there are still some people that can't read or write in this country. And that's the truth. So what happens to the children? So Kate, do you have anything to add in here? And then I'll get Brother Femi, because Femi, I know you have children, and what have you been doing for their education? So Kate, tell me about what you think about this.
Well, for me, I don't have children that is at home with me and all that, so I won't be able to say much. But the only thing I can add is that we have to consider, in these cases, mental health, of children, young people, adults. Mental health is very important. And mental health with financial stress, and not knowing how the future is going to play out after COVID, post-COVID, and where people are going or coming, how they're going to financially be secure, financially at home. And there are a group of people who will suffer very much. It's either they are employed somehow, or they have their own business, there are a group of people who cannot compete with young people when it comes to employment. Because we're going now into a territory of fast-paced. So everything we know is gone. The new has come, but how is it going to look like? Because there are a lot of chunk of people, say, let's say the age of 45 to 60, you know, they've been disjointed. They're not going to be able to compete. And not everybody has a support of other stuff, you know, cushion. There are a lot of chunk of people who find themselves isolated, alone, nobody, and they're going to struggle. It's very complex and multiple layers of issues. But we can start from community, yes, and how to find the right place. It's not every place that will fit everybody. So that is the complex layers. How are we going to spread it out and direct people that needs help that suits the situation to get them into those places? That's a place that we can start from, because you can get help, but is it the right help for you? So that's how I see it. That's where I'm coming from. I don't know. Maybe someone else has, you know.
Yeah,
Thank you,
probably
Kate.
goes back to when,
Let me ask Kemi to get in here.
Yes.
Yeah. Kemi, please.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Sorry, what was the question again? Sorry.
We're talking about young people, young children, and particularly girls, but young children, during this COVID, their education would have been hampered in one way or the other.
Yeah.
So what can we do going forward to support them and to ensure smooth?
I think, yes, the education's been hampered, and also we equally have opportunity as well to educate them, to encourage them. For example, from my perspective, you know, I've got 3 girls, so, and so I sort of encourage them in a number of ways. I educate them about their education, about becoming relevant, having relevant skills. The world is changing, you know. So, and certain skills are relevant. Even though certain skills, some of these skills are classic skills, but for example, which people don't really explore in depth, and which offers great and huge rewarding career. For example, if you look at Excel, Microsoft Excel, a lot of people only know Excel like 5% or 10% of its capability. If you do know Excel inside out, so many banks, so many insurance companies, so many, you know, building financial models, doing a lot of, you know, you can do so much with Excel, and it's hugely, it can afford you a huge and rewarding career. So I educate them in terms of, you know, what they want to do. I encourage them to say, okay, look, you know, and thankfully, I don't need to remind them about their work. They seem to be enthusiastic about their work. But I just the opportunity to tell them, look, this is relevant. These are the core things that are relevant. I try to teach them about money management as well. You know, you leave your lights on in your room. That is 50p less from your pocket money. So
Yes.
by the time you lose
Lovely.
you know, so then I see them helping themselves to say, you know, I saw your light on, I switch it off so that you don't say, you know. So little like about money education, I teach them about faith. For example, you know, we're Christians, and then we discuss our faith every evening, play the drums, we sing, we dance. So because I believe that you got to study and teach and practice your beliefs, you know. So I try to then encourage them to exercise. But in terms of career and in terms of what the world is now, you know, the world is a very small place now. You know, you could be in China now, somebody could be in my village back in Nigeria now, and we're all talking, and it's only just the beginning. So we've got to educate our people to have the relevant skills going forward.
Yeah.
What are the relevant skills? There's so many. IT is vast. For example, last year I offered 4 different courses, free online. Unix, Java, Oracle. I've been doing this for more than 20 years. And once in a while, I'll just do it free. I don't charge anybody, people dialing. Sometimes some of these things, I got people working in the industry that, got jobs. And sometimes, you try to, unlock with people to pull them up. And, you see that some people, they drag you down, then you take your out your hand. So I've digressed a bit, but so I just try to not imposing what I want them to be on them, but try to encourage them to say, look, these are the career things you can look at. So we can start with people that we know, young people that we know. Microsoft, products, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. If you can do this, you can use this thing, you can work anywhere. Okay. And guess what? Automation is going to take over, Exploring automation, we have what we call UiPath, robotic automation. In the future, you check it out, UiPath, I've been doing some research and learning. In the future, a lot of as we're talking now, that is currently existing anyway. Computer is typing everything, and somebody sends you an email, the computer logs into your email, grab invoices, does whatever it needs to do, place the other, the Internet of Things, matching, talking to machines. So things are happening. So encourage them to learn about automations. So I can go on and on and on, but the starting point again, and again, what I do, exercises that I do, because I believe so much in personal development, so there are a lot of YouTube videos. There's a guy called Jim Rohn, Jim Rohn, Tracy, Weekly, so many of them. Just spend with my children, even with Oprah, I spend 15 minutes. Okay, sit down with me and listen. So they listen. If they encourage the attitude, to teach them about attitude, just try. Teenagers, they will still have the, but at least eventually they will remember one day that, oh, I've got to, do this. So those are the things that I've been doing with my children. And we've been using the opportunity to bond so much, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you, Femi. Really, that's really wonderful. I knew that you will talk about this because in as much as we are looking upon our government to do something to support us as citizens of the country, and to support us as men or women, and in this time we're looking at women and girls, we also owe duties. Also, we have responsibilities ourselves to do things for ourselves. And I like the way you mentioned what you're doing with your children. If we as mothers and sisters and family members and neighbors could also take it upon ourselves to look at the younger ones, the younger girls, and try to teach them life skills and social skills and bond with them also, I think things will be okay. We begin to carry other people along. So that's really wonderful. Gloria, do we want to move to the next slide? Or you want to add something? I know you're eager to add something as usual.
No, actually, just to say that obviously we're coming, we're fast approaching 5 o'clock, and I know that a lot of us will be leaving soon. I have another meeting myself, so. But it's actually quite an interesting conversation going on one slide. That's remarkable. We spent more than an hour just discussing.
It's lovely. It's powerful. Very powerful.
Okay.
Can I just say, Christine, so like listening to Femi and everything, would we all agree like it's about helping our child to feel good about themselves? It starts there, right? Is that right, Femi?
Yeah,
whatever you do, it's about that child feeling good about themselves from the time they step out of that home and who they are, how they teach their name to somebody, how they look. And first of all, they must like themselves. When they look into that mirror, they need to like, if you don't like yourself, you cannot expect somebody else to like you. Right. How is it going to happen? We've just got to have a very strong self-worth.
It's value.
Value. It's just
Yeah.
a powerful thing. And I think we've just got to give it to our children. Just got to, and it starts from day one.
Yeah.
But it's not all lost, because even us as parents can undo certain habits, and we can learn new habits as well, and slowly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's not, nature has a role to play, but nurture also is important. So nature, not. So this lockdown, actually, like we all have been saying, I work so hard. I sometimes I come home very late, but I really appreciate this lockdown because it's giving me time to like Femi said, bond with the children, pray together, do fellowship together. And even as we speak, I know, Femi, also your children will be there. They are already doing their lesson. Is that also, Femi?
Correct. That's correct. Yeah.
They're doing the Zoom lesson now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, taking interest in what the children are doing. Like we know the children are now doing their maths and science now on Zoom with a teacher. But at the end of it all, you going back to say, showing interest, listen to them. You may not, sometimes I don't even know what my children are talking about in science. I don't know what they're saying, but I just pretend as if I know what they're saying. I listen and ask questions and, put questions back to them. And they feel, oh yes, mommy is really interested in what we're saying. So in fact, you don't need to have money. What you need to have is give these little children, just time and value them. And, we are fun. Just say to them, oh, you're worth it and you're valuable and all that kind of thing. So just make time for them. So do we need to move to the next slide? Gloria?
I think
Quickly, if we can quickly touch on that. We've been doing that. So that's what we've been discussing. What's the next one? So we just quickly mapped out some strategies. And I think these are some of the strategies we've been talking about anyway. We're talking about economic, the strategy to rebuild and to be stronger. Somebody's what's it called? Is making a lot of noise. Okay, I think it stopped. So some of the strategies we mapped out were things like the economic aspect of it all. It involves everybody, men and women, but specifically, I'm looking at the women here. That women have, we always do small businesses, small to medium businesses. So if there's a way that they could have credits or have access to credit or financial support, even where the banks could waive some interest and all that, and chambers of commerce could also support some of those women, look at their business plans, look at their income and expenditure spreadsheet, and give them some cash flow advice. Everything is not about money, but there's some kind of business support that can be provided to these women. And as Gloria said, linking them also, signposting them to other businesses or other organizations that could support. What else did we say? Gloria, you're a small to medium term business. What did you think that some people, women in your position would need in order to go back and be stronger and rebuild this post-COVID? Yeah, is a good example to use. So tell me what you, as a business person, woman, would want to see happen.
Obviously, I need the banks, obviously, to be there. The government, I must say, did a lot for small businesses. And also it's reaching out. This is now the time for you to evaluate your network. So I've had to reach out to my wider network involving men and women, and that support, it's interesting. That support is actually quite, there's quite a lot of it out there, especially from the men, because obviously they've been there before. So just knowing that, you know what, if my female friends or female supporter cannot help me, I can reach out to another man who's been there before to help. So the local authority, a lot of them are doing so much at this moment in time for small businesses. And also knowing that, you know, you as a person, that determination to survive, it has to be stronger now than ever before. And this is why, although I've been working from home, and yes, we've been in a lockdown, but I've been working even harder, knowing that I need to do better, I need to survive. It's going to be a different world when we get back into you know, the world of business compared to what it was like when we went into the lockdown. So what's that?
Yeah, I'm mindful that this is quite a very, very interesting subject, and huge subject to tackle in 2 hours, actually. Because even when we were talking about it in the Leaders Summit, we had whole days to talk about this, and we merely scratched the surface, not talk about, you know, dealing with it in 2 hours. So quickly, I would like each and every one of us to say the take that we could, what we could take away from this, this On Your Sofa discussion this evening. So quickly, Brother Femi, what would you take away from this?
Be my brother's keeper, or be my sister's keeper.
Yes.
Just watch out for other people, and then, you know, help to signpost them to where help is, basically.
Thank you. So,
Sorry, Christy, can I just say something to Femi before he goes?
Okay, good.
Yeah, Brother Femi, I'm actually studying Excel, but from the beginning. So if it's something that I'll be able to talk to you about later, will that be okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I will talk to Christine. She probably give me your contact. Yeah, okay. Email.
Right.
Oh, great. Cool. Thanks. Sorry, ladies.
Good. So, Joe, tell us something that you take away from today's discussion, please.
Just that, you know, there is more opportunity available if I want to seek it. That was a really powerful comment that Femi made, in that, like, if I start setting foundations, then I can support not only myself, also my friends and my family in their career and personal goals.
Great. Thank you very much. So, Saljon have got something to say.
Yeah, I think I will, similar to what Femi said, I think Gloria had come out with that, where we must signpost help. You know, well, generally I am that person who's, you know, ready to help, but I think you've reiterated that where we can now, sometimes we don't have the solutions within to just do it ourselves, like a friend that's needing that support, and then reaching out to the local councillor. I've not thought about it at that level. So you've just, being in that position was interesting to listen to you say that, Gloria. So it's opened my mind to think bigger in that way.
Did you know how to find their contact?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, so it's really just about councillor for, you put the area and the details. So you go to your council website and you can find it.
It's lovely. Good. Thank you for that.
Kate, we've got something to say, to add, or you've done it already?
For me, I've taken away the networking connection and learning new things, and how to expand and think out of the box and be strong as well, just as Gloria said. And what Femi said is very correct, that we have to learn new skills now and have to get, build our knowledge up. And yeah, and the lady that works, Claire, that works in the paper, is fascinating because it's getting me thinking about recycle and all that. So yeah, I've heard a lot of good things, and I'm really appreciative of it.
Great. So have we lost Claire now?
Yeah.
Oh, Claire.
She's still there.
Yeah, Claire. Claire, please. It's always nice to see you. Tell me, what will you take away from this? How will you share it at in your place of work? Because I want you to share it there also. Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, in a similar vein, the signposting aspect really resonated with me, because I think I come across a lot of things where I think that's not useful to me, but these are things that can be parked and then brought up again if somebody else does need it, somebody that in a personal level. In terms of my workplace, I mean, I think that I work in a very male-dominated environment, as some of you know. And we did actually, every year we select a charity that we want to support, and we did put forward a domestic abuse charity as one of the three that staff could vote for, and the most popular one won. They didn't select the domestic abuse charity, but I think we even had a discussion about whether or not we should put forward a domestic abuse charity, because we weren't sure how it would be perceived. And I think we've moved forward in the workplace now. We've got some mental health first aiders, and I think that we need men to challenge other men in terms of domestic abuse. And I wonder, I don't know, it's just a basic idea at the moment on whether or not there's more that can be done, because we've got such a large active male audience. What can we do to try to educate them and to get them to challenge each other? You know, just an initial thought, but something I can think about a bit more.
Great, that's wonderful, well done. And Gloria, before we say goodbye, what have you got to say?
Sorry, I'm doing something else in the background. Sorry, I'm taking screenshots of you guys though, if you don't mind. I'm going to show you. Sorry, being naughty. I am being naughty. That's what happens when you've got power in your fingertips.
You share that with us.
Okay. So tell us. It's actually been such an interesting conversation. Obviously, hearing from everyone, and I've learned from all of you today. Number one, it's been great meeting so many new faces, and I think that's, for me, it's relevant, because it means that my network is even richer now. So when we talk about signposting, now I know it. For example, somebody wanting to do Excel or something like that, I know where to signpost them. It makes my portfolio of, where to get help for others bigger. And no, it's just, thank you all for being part of it. I've gained a lot from all of you. Thank you.
Great. So,
sorry, can I just make a correction? By the way, I am not an Excel specialist.
You will know where to send somebody to. I mean, I was a former IT teacher, so I could do all that. But at least, maybe somewhere.
Because I do high-level programming languages, but I see that everywhere I've worked, all the banks everywhere I've worked, people that are good in Excel, they're like, they just won't let them go. So I just thought, so that's why I mentioned Excel. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well done.
Yeah, that's great.
Don't worry, we will collaborate, Femi.
Yes, and Gloria, I think you and Femi should build a synergy, because of what you people do. You need to actually
the security
and build some synergy.
That's why I said we'll collaborate.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So
I need all of you though. I need all of you. I need Joe, I need Claire, I need Kate, I need really Selvan, I need all of you because together we are richer.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have the on the sofa on Monday. I wonder how many of you want to be part of it on Monday. And if you want to be part of it on Monday, 3 o'clock, what topic do you want to explore? I usually ask these questions. So I won't be offended if you don't want to be part of it on Monday or next week Friday. Definitely I won't be offended, but I would like to see you. I love seeing you. And you all know me, you know I love seeing people a lot. That sometimes I worry that maybe I may be stalking people, but I love people. That's
My Monday's already,
thinking,
my Monday's
how has
already
she
booked.
survived? How would she survive in COVID? Because I just like seeing people. But thank God for this platform. That's what's been keeping me going, you know. So if you can't do Monday and you want to be part of it on Friday, that's great. But we have this on your sofa twice a week, Mondays and Fridays, 3 o'clock, you know, same time, 3 to 5 or 3 to 4:30, depending on how interesting the topic is. So let me know if you want to be part of next week Monday or not, and you can email me, you can tell me what topic you want to explore. But apart from that, I thank you very, very much for your contributions. That's been very useful. And I tell you that I've been taking notes, and some of you, I actually plead with you, should I quote you directly if I'm writing my communications on engagement to the United Nations Global Compact, which we do in every 2 years. We write about how we communicated and what we did with the different people and different organizations in our spheres of operation. And this is part of
Absolutely.
it. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Yeah, fine with me.
Very much. Thank you.
Concept given.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Talking about concept, can you see on the screen what I've just shared?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got, oh, you lucky.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
that's good. You have to teach
That's
me how to do that.
She's
Gloria, you're a secret agent woman.
Will you share it with us then? If we email it to you, then Gloria,
Sorry?
your screenshots, are you happy to share it with us?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna